Hello, welcome to our WWF Q&A on how can we eat for change. I'm Maleeka, Imam. This is my colleague, Gonzalo.
We're gonna just wait a bit while we wait for people to join before we talk to all of you about food. So we're just gonna wait for the numbers to go up a bit. And then as soon as we get a thumbs up from our amazing colleagues in the back, we'll just get started and talk to you about food and non-stop talk about food. We know you're here to talk about food.
We've received a lot of amazing questions in the last week, so thank you so much for sending them through. Remember that you can still send them and we'll try our best to answer as many as we can.
What's your favorite food to eat?
It's a good fruit.
Any
Or
kind of meal.
food.
I'm curious. While we wait for people to join, we're just talking informally about our favorite foods. Tell us in the comments, what is your favorite meal?
If you could have one meal
If
forever,
you could have one meal forever, what would it be?
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The same thing.
I think mine would be, I love aubergine. So aubergine, I like to slice it and I like to like fry it in the pan.
Yeah.
And then I sprinkle a lot of lemon, and then this is the trick, a lot of chili oil. I know it sounds crazy, but it tastes really good.
Really good.
What do you like?
That's a Mediterranean flair.
Yeah. So what do you like?
I think mine changes. I think I love food too much to have one thing. I think right now I'm on a Thai green curry cake. Love that.
Mhm.
Very easy to make it plant-based as well. Can pop in some aubergine, cauliflower.
See?
You know what I love? Carrots. I've been having a lot of carrots recently. Carrots and hummus.
Carrots are really delicious.
They're so good. And they have vitamin A, great for your eyesight. I was told
See,
that
you
growing
have
up,
all
it's
the,
a really
you have
bad
all the
eyesight.
nutritional point. Oh my God. So the people that might be just joining right now, thank you so much for joining this session. We're going to talk to you about why on earth does WWF work on food. We know that some of you have submitted some questions that you might have around food and how it impacts nature and the environment, and we're here to answer all of them. If you've just joined, you might notice that some people in the comments are letting us know what their favorite meal is, I hope. But yeah.
So I think it'd be great to do an introduction once again
Let's do
for
that.
everyone that's joined in. You want to go first?
So, okay, I'll go first. So hi everyone, my name is Gonzalo Taylor. I work as a campaign manager here at WWF UK. That means that I just get people excited to do things. That's basically my job. And I specifically work for this campaign. It's called Eat for Change. It's basically in the title of the live stream. And it's a campaign of just making young people realize that eating plant-based is really good for the environment, and just kind of giving people the facts around that. That's basically my role. What about you, Maleeka?
I think mine's less people focused, but still as important. So I am a policy advisor in our consumption team here at WWF UK, and I research and advocate for a sustainable shift towards sustainable diets. And I'm really interested in empowering people from all backgrounds to gather information and have the knowledge to make sustainable choices about their food, what they're consuming, what they're buying. And this is not to say that it's solely up to the consumer. I think governments and businesses are also a really important actor when it comes to this. But I think it's also important in these times when there's so much green anxiety and so many questions around what we can do and how we can play a role. And food is a way that I personally do it as well. So I love talking about it in my work.
We love food. So I guess the first question, this is probably like the most popular question that was submitted to us, is obviously when all of you think about WWF, you think about our panda, you might think about the amazing images you see on our Instagram. And I think a lot of like the most popular question we get is why, and I'm gonna ask you this. Yeah. Why does WWF work on food?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot. Every time, friends, family, everyone. So we know that 1/3 of our greenhouse gas emissions come from the food system. That's over 30% of global emissions. So our food system is broken. So if we want to preserve biodiversity, protect our planet, and minimize climate change, we really need to restore and reinvent our farming system to make sure it works for people and for planet.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you next.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is the best diet for the planet?
Okay. This is a good question because I think a lot of people want to be told that a specific diet is going to like change the world and save humanity. And hopefully that would be the case, but the realistic scenario, the realistic case is that we're all on our own respective dietary journeys. Everyone eats differently, and it's very difficult to tell everyone to eat one specific diet, because think about the world, we're all from different cultures, different parts of the world. We all eat different kinds of foods. Foods from certain parts of the world can be found in other parts. So we all eat quite differently in totality. The one message that we're trying to give across as WWF and as part of Eat for Change is that the one thing that we can agree on, and the one thing that we do have the science to back, is that we need everyone to eat less and better animal products. I think that's one of the very, very key ones, because we know that animal products are linked to high CO2, biodiversity loss, all this other stuff. So we really want to encourage people to just slowly eat less of these products and to explore the beauty and the bountifulness that is like plant-based foods. Like there's so many plants that people can choose to eat. So that's kind of the best diet. The best diet is just keeping the planet and keeping your health in mind, and just choosing to eat more plants.
I think what's sustainable for you as well.
Yeah.
So sustainability for me, and in general, encompasses three things, which is economic sustainability, social, and environmental. So I think it can be really stressful to think about, oh my God, I need to eat organic all the time.
Yeah.
And that can be really expensive. So I think focusing on what feels good for your body, what is affordable for you, and also what is good for the planet. I think one key message I would say is less and better. That's the approach that WWF wants to advocate for, is less and better meat and dairy, and more plants, fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, things like that.
Yeah. Make sure your plate is colorful. We don't want any more beige or yellow plates. We need it multicolored, like the pride flag. I guess another good question to ask is, so as WWF, we are working on the subject of diets. You mentioned that we work with like farmers, and that we work in advocacy and that kind of area. So I guess another question that we got is, how come food and agriculture, how come are we saying that food and agriculture are bad for the planet? How does our food system contribute to climate change?
Really good question. The first thing I would say is it's really important to know that we want to work with farmers, and we do work with farmers to empower them to transform towards more regenerative agriculture that's good for the planet and also for the economy as well. So currently the way that our food system is running is really bad for the environment, because we rely on intensive farming. So that means we use a lot of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. We rely on monocultures, which means there's a loss of habitat. So we're losing species like pollinators, other animals that could be in the area. These pesticides go into our water systems, and the system is broken, and we want to work with farmers, but it's really important to also understand that we cannot do this without the support of businesses and government. So yeah, that's our mission.
Thank you. And I think the other thing that WWF is starting to get a bit more vocal on is the subject of food waste. So I think we released a recent report. It's called like the hidden food waste report. And we had this like download it today on our website. We had like an amazing factoid on it that like almost 3 million tons of edible food goes to waste in like UK farms every year.
Yeah, and that's before it even leaves the farm.
And that's crazy. And it's like almost equivalent to 18 million meals a day. So we're losing a lot of food that we could be eating because of food waste. And also, what is it like? I think methane that gets released as a result of food waste is 25 times stronger than CO2. So that's something else that we need to be conscious of when we talk about the food system is, how much food are we losing?
That reminds me. So it's really important that we have separate food bins as well. I've had friends who've asked me why I have a separate food bin at home. And it's really important that we like sort of not recycle, but, just put it separately.
Play our part. No, it's important to play our part.
Because it releases a lot of harmful gases when it's decomposted, and that's really bad for the environment. That actually reminds me of another question that links really well. Is
questions.
If we eat less processed food, would there still be enough for the billions out there?
What do you think on this?
The answer is yes. The earth is abundant. We have a lot of food. A stat that I've shared earlier through the World Economic Forum is that we have 400,000 species of plants, but we only eat 200.
200.
200.
We only eat 200.
We don't eat a lot.
plants.
There's more than
Yeah.
apples, bananas, pears, and peaches. There's a lot out
I do
there.
have to say, sometimes I go to the supermarket and I'm like, is that it? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, no, I had the same experience. So yeah, I think if we all eat well according to the live well principles, which I'll get you to share in a second, eat more plants, eat more beans, legumes, whole foods. We have more than enough food. The problem is that it's unequally distributed throughout the world. As you said, 18 million plates of food go to waste before it's even left farm. So the problem isn't that we don't have enough food. It's more about how the system is working. And part of our work is to make sure we can sort of fill in those gaps and do what we can.
That's a good one. And I think going through some of the questions that were submitted to us, there's this one question, I think I can answer that. I think.
Go for it.
It says, eating sustainably is so expensive. What can I do? So I think it's no surprise to everyone right now, we're going through like a cost crisis here in the UK. The prices of food are going up, the prices of our energy, our electricity. It's really expensive to be a human in the UK right now. And I think we can all agree on that. And it's quite frustrating. But the good news that I have to share to everyone and anyone that's listening here right now is that eating sustainably doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. There are so many ways that you can cut costs and live a sustainable lifestyle when it comes to food that a lot of people might not realize. And I guess one of the main food items that I'd recommend for someone that's trying to cut costs and incorporate more plant-based food into their diet is the magical world of beans and legumes and lentils and all those beautiful.
We love beans here.
I mean, they're very cost effective. They're also quite high in protein and they're also high in fiber. So they'll help you go to the bathroom and you get a decent protein boost. So we really recommend things like beans. Those are really effective, like sustainable foods.
And if you buy in bulk, if you cook in bulk, something I personally do is a lot of freezer cooking. So I'll cook up a big chickpea curry and freeze it and then have it throughout the week. It's time effective, cost effective, and pocket friendly too.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, when they think about like eating sustainably, they think about like fancy meals with quinoa and some like rare kind of plant that you've never seen for the rest of your life. And I think especially because we're talking here in the UK, eating plant-based has technically always been a part of this culture here. I mean, I don't want to be cheesy, but I know some of you like beans on toast, and that's technically a completely like veggie, quite healthy meal that you could possibly be eating. So there are many ways that you could, eat more sustainably. And I think there's a great factoid, a great fact, I think it's from Oxford University, it was published in 2021. And it says that you can cut your food bill by up to 1/3 by adopting a more plant-based lifestyle. So message to everyone out there, eating more plants can help you save money, and then you can go to your Dua Lipa concert without feeling guilty, because those tickets were very expensive.
Okay, I think we've had another question come in.
Yes, let's see.
I also have a really interesting one for you later.
I guess, ooh, get ready for this.
Okay.
So everyone says that we should be eating more local. What is WWF stance on this? What's our stance on eating local?
Yeah, so Mythbuster.
Okay.
Eating locally is not always the more sustainable choice.
Mhm.
So it might be more carbon intensive to grow certain things. For example, we import a lot of tomatoes from Spain, but that's better for the environment for us to import it rather than us growing it locally, because we might not have the correct season for it, might not have facilities. And so yeah, I would, as an organization, we would never say eat more local. If that's something that's more sustainable economically at times, of course, go for it. But in general, eating more locally does not always mean more sustainably, because I think one thing that we forget sometimes is a lot of emissions are spent from also how we grow the food. So if we don't have the correct environment for it and we're growing it locally, that might be more damaging to our habitats and the wider biodiversity. Yeah, eat in a way that's diverse. Okay.
One thing to everyone that's tuning in possibly right now that has no idea what on earth you just clicked on, just a reminder that this is WWF. Hello, we're here to talk to you about food. We have been reading some questions that we've received over the past, I think, how long has it been up? Probably like 2 or 3 days. Taking in all your questions on food, 5 days. And we are now answering them. So if you have any questions on food, or if you have any favorite meals that you want to share with us, please chime in on the comments. And
if you want to know why we're talking about food, Gonzalo here is a campaigner and I work on food policy.
Yeah. So, should I ask you the next question that we have here? So, what are your work focuses in relation to food at the moment?
So I do a mixture of researching and advocacy. So researching is more desk-based work. I recently worked on a report called the Eating for Net Zero, which is on our website right now, and you can read it, where we basically talk about how we can eat more sustainably that is good for people and planet. And one really important message from there is that we do not advocate for people going vegan or vegetarian, but rather eating in a way which is more flexitarian. So that's one thing I worked on. And then on the advocacy side of things, I meet with other NGOs that are working on similar issues, such as food waste, food poverty, nutritional security, and we also work with government and businesses.
That's good.
What about you?
Look at you, diverse. I guess my main work focus at the moment that's food related is I am working on some youth trainings on the subject area of food. So if you want to learn more about food at your university or at school, and how we can kind of take more collective action around this, drop your university name or like place that you want us to go to, because we are looking for places that we can go and engage other young people on the subject of food and kind of get them more informed. So that'd be quite great.
Well, that sounds super exciting. I think people watching this will want to be a campaigner.
Oh
No,
no.
it's important work, guys. Okay, I have a really interesting question that I think people would be very stoked to hear.
Okay.
So someone has said, I am a bodybuilder and I want to eat better, but I don't want to cut my protein intake and lose my muscle gains. What would you recommend?
Okay. So this is a good question. So it's a bodybuilder that wants to eat more
Keep their
plant-based.
protein intake up.
Okay, I think there's a lot of myths and there's a lot of myths in the bodybuilding world about eating more plant-based. And there's this conception that if I eat more plant-based, I'm going to weaken and I'm going to lose muscle mass. And the reality is that that is not going to happen. You can actually get protein from plants. Groundbreaking news. And you can get it from lots of different sources. So I think for bodybuilding, you need like your 9 essential amino acids to kind of like build muscle. And you can actually get those from plant-based protein. I think one of the best beans to do that is actually the soybean. So really good replacements for chicken or beef if you're a bodybuilder are things like tofu or tempeh. They're very high in protein and they're very like complete protein sources. I would also recommend slowly transitioning from kind of like milk-based proteins like whey protein and all that kind of stuff to plant-based protein powders.
Yeah.
That have like, they're made out of like pea protein and all this stuff. You can get them to similar compositions to whey protein, which I highly recommend. And I guess the other one, and this is kind of a bit more generic, is just that recommendation again that you can eat beans, because beans have a high source of fiber and protein, and those are just like really good replacements.
Like lentils.
Yeah, and I think it's also key to like look for more information where you can. A lot of sustainable food is marketed towards women, and sometimes there's like this gendered perspective that eating sustainable is for women only, when in reality, of course, it's also for men as well. So that would be great. It's very, very important to just have that kind of like diverse intake of plant-based proteins if you're a bodybuilder, and to transition slowly.
Yeah, slowly, gradually is the way to go. I personally also eat a flexitarian diet. So
what is a flexitarian diet for you?
Yeah. For me, okay, so I have worked at WWF for a year and a half now, and I've seen how my diet has changed slowly and gradually as well. I still eat meat sometimes. I personally prefer white meat, so chicken and white fish rather than beef. So I'll have meat maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and the other times I will have plant-based food. And sometimes I don't even realize I'm eating vegetarian. So when you slowly incorporate it into your diet, it becomes a part of your habit.
So you're eating beans.
I am eating beans. I'm eating
good.
beans, legumes, chickpeas. I'm Pakistani, so a great way for me to eat vegetarian or plant-based is to eat lentils and dal, and I make a lot of curries, so I'll have a chickpea curry instead of a chicken curry at times.
Okay.
And the great thing is they freeze great. As I said before, I love some freezer cooking. It's economical and it saves time. So really just it's holistic. It saves time. It's good for the planet. It's good for your health as well. Better to stay away from processed meats anyway.
Definitely. I think it would be very useful if we give everyone recommendations of foods that they can like slowly swap and transition towards more plant-based. So you made that great suggestion about kind of like the more like veggie curries that you've been having. That
love
are
a Thai green curry. So instead of chicken, I would put an abundance of vegetables. So I love some cauliflower, carrots, aubergine in there. You can even put tofu if you want more of that meaty texture. Mushroom is something I personally eat a lot when I'm craving that sort of meatiness, but don't really want to eat an animal product. Mushrooms are great for that.
So let's say I'm eating like a chili con carne. This is me as Latino coming out. How would you help me make my chili con carne better for the environment?
Okay, give me like a slight recipe and then I'll tweak it for you.
Okay, a lot minced beef.
Okay.
Kidney beans and a lot of rice, but mainly minced beef because that's what makes the dish yummy.
Okay.
How would you help me make that more plant-based?
I think if you want the texture of mince, corn mince is a great way to start. We don't necessarily advocate for a lot of processed plant-based meals, but I think with corn, and you can do your research at home as well, it's a bit healthier.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good for people that are just learning to transition. It can be really hard to go from having meat every single day to only having plants. Your body's not used to that. You'll end up starving.
Yeah.
So corn mince is great for that.
Okay.
I would just put in a lot of vegetables. If you kidney beans, add in cannellini beans, add in more beans.
I think another good suggestion is like explore your spice racket. I feel like not enough people do that.
It's about flavor, guys. It's about flavor.
And you can definitely play around with texture and find ways to make plant-based
Vegetable
food
stock
more
is a
exciting.
great way. So I like veggie stock, and then for example, my partner doesn't like a lot of vegetable. He'll hate that I said this. What I do
We're
is
calling out her partner because
pieces all cut like. So he thinks he doesn't eat mushrooms, but he actually does because I add a lot of mushrooms in our food. But I just chop them up really tiny. And when I don't feel like having a lot of veggies, just cut your, I would say, celery, carrots, mushrooms, onion, just chop them into little pieces, chuck them in some sauce. You don't know what you're eating. It's a great way to eat some spaghetti.
yeah, and I think
bolognese.
also if you're someone that eats like a lot of plant-based food and you really want your friends to try it, but it's kind of like tricky to introduce them to the subject, I really recommend that you cook for your friends. So I have a brother that I love a lot who refuses to eat plant-based a lot of the time. And actually last weekend I surprised them because I decided to make like ramen, and I like cut up tofu and like mushrooms, and I seasoned it quite well. And then my brother, who was like kind of like pushing the tofu around in disgust, eventually ate my food and liked it. So I think there's something special about sharing food with other people. So if you have a plant-based meal that you really like, that you want to introduce to someone, do it. Like if you want to have like a cook-off with your friends, what's that show that's really popular? Great British Bake Off. You can tell I'm not British.
Come dine with me.
Or come dine with me. You can have a
supper club.
Come dine with me moment
I
with
love
your
a supper
friends
club.
and cook for each other, because I think like one of the best ways that I've been introduced to food that I've ended up really liking has been from my friends cooking for me. So cook for each other, cook for your family, cook for your friends.
Cook for yourself.
And cook for yourself so you survive and you can watch another live stream another day.
One thing I want to add is what you said about tofu, how your brother was picking it off. I used to do that. So I just learned. So I think there's one thing I've realized is people usually like food. I think it's mainly how it's prepared, which makes you not like it. So I used to think I don't like tofu, and then I realized I prefer firm tofu instead of silken, and I like it
there's
fried.
a difference between.
I don't ask me the specifics. I don't know, but I like firm tofu. It soaks up all of the flavors really nice. So I'll marinate in like lemon juice and spices, and I have an air fryer. Pop it in the air fryer or the oven. It gets really crispy, and I love some crispy tofu.
I'm gonna marinate mine in ketchup.
Yes, go for it. Why not?
I guess
Whatever works.
Really good question I have for you is, what are some general ways, some tips that people at home can take back on how you'd recommend for them to eat sustainably? What WWF resources do we have to tell people about eating sustainably?
I think our main resource is the Live Well Guide.
Okay.
So there's 6 Live Well principles. So the first one is eat more plants and vegetables, reduce your meat and dairy consumption, but have less and better meat and dairy, reduce your food waste. And I'll give the last 3 to you because I forgot.
Don't worry, they're on our website. I know that one is about choosing the right kind of fish to eat. We'll get back on that one.
Sustainably sourced fish as well. Yes.
Sustainably sourced fish. That's one. And then I think the last one is around having a very diverse plate.
Yeah.
I guess tips on my side would be, so in Eat for Change, we have 2 resources for anyone that wants to choose to eat more sustainably. The first is we have a food guide. We call it Bring Change to the Table, because you can be an advocate for eating better with your own plate. And it has like little tips and guidance on small little food swaps you can make. So like our discussion earlier about my brother, your partner. And the other resource we have, which I really recommend for people, is My Footprint app. So on My Footprint app, you have challenges that you can make to kind of improve the world and all this stuff. And we have a lot of food challenges. So if you want to learn how to make your own oat milk, if you want to take the challenge of eating plant-based 1 day a week, that's a great resource for it.
Yeah.
So we really recommend kind of those as kind of entry level. And I guess above all, the most important is look for more information yourself, stay curious, keep asking questions, and don't be scared to make changes in your life, because you never know what you might end up liking. And there's so much variety in our world and so much variety in our food. And there's definitely lots of new plates that you can fall in love with.
Yeah, and I think in England as well, there's so much food available to us from different cultures to explore that, I think, and have fun with it.
Explore different cultures.
Yeah, it's a fun way to connect with people, to just bond with humans.
Food is personal, food is delicious, and above all, thank you so much for coming to our session on food. We really appreciate you being here. We know that there's probably a couple of questions that we couldn't answer on the spot. So if you still have any, please leave them in the comments. We'll try to get back to you somehow. I don't know how, but we will. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for learning more about WWF and the world of food.
Yeah, thank you so much.